All right, get ready to dive deep, everybody, because today we're tackling a question we all grapple with. How to stay positive, keep our heads above water when things get tough.
And let me tell you, the answer is not pretending everything is sunshine and rainbows.
Hmm.
We're digging into real strategies here, folks.
Exactly. No forced positivity allowed. We're getting real about those tough times, but hopefully coming out the other side with, a game plan.
Absolutely. So we're diving into this podcast episode, Positive Thinking for Tough Times. And I have to say, they really piqued my curiosity right off the bat. I mean, why even bother with positivity when life throws us curveballs?
Oh.
It just feels, I don't know, inauthentic or something.
Right, shouldn't we be allowed to have a mini meltdown when things go sideways?
Of course. We're human after all.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. This episode highlighted all this research, showing that choosing to be positive, even when things are rough, has some pretty incredible benefits. I'm talking about reduced stress, a stronger immune system, and maybe even living longer.
Whoa, hold up. Are you saying that thinking positive thoughts can actually impact my health?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I love to dig into the science behind this stuff. It's not just some feel-good mumbo-jumbo. It's about equipping ourselves to handle challenges better. This is where this idea of reframing comes in, which they talked about on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Didn't they use the example of, hitting a roadblock?
Exactly. It was like, instead of letting a roadblock completely derail you, what if you looked at it as a chance to discover an even better route, one you might have missed otherwise?
Such a good point. Because, let's be real, life is full of detours. So it's not about pretending those detours don't exist, right? It's about maybe getting a little excited about where they might take us, which honestly is way easier said than done, am I right?
100%.
Yeah.
So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we actually put this into practice? Especially when, life feels like it's throwing everything at us all at once.
Right. Give me the tools. So did this podcast offer any practical tips?
They did. And this is where it gets really good. They focused on 3 key practices: gratitude, mindfulness, and self-compassion. And it's not just about keeping a gratitude journal or something. They dug into how these practices actually help us build this foundation of inner strength and resilience.
Okay, inner strength and resilience. Now you've got my attention. Tell me more about this connection.
Well, they talked about how when you practice gratitude, you're training your brain to look for the good stuff, even when, things aren't all sunshine and roses.
So it's like hitting the gym for your, positivity muscles. Got to stay in shape for those tough times, right?
Exactly. You're building up those reserves.
Yeah.
And then there's mindfulness.
Oh, mindfulness. That's a big one these days.
Right. But it really ties into this whole positivity thing. See, when we're stressed, our brains tend to go into overdrive, imagining worst-case scenarios and stuff.
Oh, tell me about it. My brain is a master at those what-if spirals.
Right. And mindfulness is like hitting the pause button on those spirals. It brings you back to the present moment.
Which, let's be honest, is usually not as bad as our brains make it out to be.
Exactly. And then the last practice they talked about was self-compassion, which honestly is something I think we could all use a little more of, especially when we're already going through it.
Oh my gosh, yes. We are so hard on ourselves.
It's true. And the podcast made this point that, would you ever speak to a friend the way you talk to yourself?
Oh, no way. I'd be their biggest cheerleader,
Yeah.
offering support and understanding and stuff.
Exactly. So why not treat ourselves with that same kindness? And it's not about letting ourselves off the hook or anything. It's just about recognizing that we're human and we're doing our best.
I love that. Being on our own team, even when things get messy.
Yes. And speaking of messy, the podcast ended with this really powerful story. It really brought all of this to life.
Oh, yeah, that story really stayed with me. What was it about again? Yeah, it really drove home the point that this stuff actually works,
Totally. So it was about this person, right? And they were going through some really, really tough times. Life had thrown them some serious curveballs.
Oh, man, I remember that. It was one thing after another, right?
Yeah, exactly. But here's the incredible thing. Instead of letting it break them, they actually used those challenges as fuel, this fire inside them.
Yeah.
And they ended up creating this amazing life for themselves, a life that was even more fulfilling than, before the tough stuff hit.
Wow. I mean, that's the dream, right? turning those challenges into like rocket fuel. But how did they do it? I mean, was there like a specific moment where everything changed for them?
Well, the podcast talked about how a big part of it was this shift in perspective, like they couldn't control everything that was happening to them.
Oh, I feel that. It's so easy to feel powerless when life throws those curveballs.
Right, but they realized that even though they couldn't control the waves, they could learn to surf.
Okay, I love that analogy. So instead of trying to like stop the storm from coming, they learned how to like ride it out.
Exactly. And I think that's such an important message for all of us, because it means that no matter what we're going through, we have this inner strength within us, and we can tap into that strength. We can not only survive those tough times, we can actually thrive.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on staying positive, what's like the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from this episode?
I think it's that, positivity isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about building up this mindset, these inner resources that help us handle whatever life throws at us.
So well said. It's like life is going to throw those curveballs no matter what. It's about showing up with a bat in hand, and being ready to swing.
Exactly. And who knows, you might just hit a home run.
Now that's a thought to end on. All right, everyone, that's it for this deep dive. Until next time, remember, you've got this.